Everyone has a special gift. Mine? The Circle of Light. They speak through me, and they're here to assist the planet's evolution to a more enlightened space, and for some reason they chose me, a raunchy comedian, to be their vessel. I used to be secretive about my ability, but now it's time to come out of the cosmic closet, and you should too. My name is Georgia Jean, and these are my crazy stories. The lead singer goes, okay, we're going to do another song here, but first of all, I've got to recharge. Like that, with the hand. So I'm expecting something really good. He reaches around, and he takes a huge swig out of his Corona. This is me. I was like, mate, I'm Australian. We give Corona to our children. And this is also me.
So if the mind can keep you in a state of agitation, all of this is the activity of the mind's security guards. And the polarity of possibility, impossibility.
Well, sort of. What you're actually hearing is the Circle of Light, a group of interdimensional, advanced, non-physical consciousnesses here to support the evolutionary shift of humanity, obviously.
Come forth directly into your life experience. Nothing more to do to earn it, to be worthy of it, to be good enough for it. Nothing more for you to...
They're talking about deconstructing the framework of the possibility-impossibility polarity, one of the sneakiest, nastiest programs of the egoic construct, Ack of the Mind, that keeps us trapped in a state of limited, painful experience, even as it proffers the hope of something awesome happening.
It's possible that I could one day live in absolute abundance. But here is the life evidence that it is impossible for me to manifest on it.
The mind is really an asshole sometimes. But once you consciously understand the possibility-impossibility polarity, it's one of the ways you can learn to bend the matrix of reality towards a desired result, according to the circle.
Quote unquote, good guys, good gals. It's impossible because it hasn't happened yet, and I'm too this.
If you're feeling lost already, don't worry, and welcome to my world. But if you stick with me a little bit, you will find, as it was with me, that all will be revealed in time. But let me back it up a bit. In June 2004, I was a gal with those dreams of something awesome happening. I was living in Hollywood, California, working in the insanely cutthroat world of stand-up comedy and chasing the big dreams. Night after night, I was sharing the stage with big names in comedy, following people like Andrew Dice Clay, Joe Rogan, even Chris Rock. But of course, in reality, I was completely broke, mostly heartbroken over some stupid dude or another, and failing to make the big mark I'd hoped for. And what's more, I had just made the absolutely heartbreaking and devastating decision to stop performing at the world-famous Comedy Store on Sunset Strip. I was a paid regular. It was my one big break and a highly coveted prize in the stand-up world for its access to opportunity, industry, and possibility. But a 3-year campaign of #MeToo harassment that I swore to myself would not break me finally had. I left the Comedy Store with my dreams of success in Hollywood shattered, and worse, the belief in myself as a person that could withstand any challenge destroyed. The guys who had told me night after night that I was, and I quote, unfunny because you're a chick, a dumb fucking stupid worthless whore, and that I needed to have some talent fucked into me, had won. For my mental health, which had already caught a fabulous case of PTSD, I wasn't going back. And it was a monumental defeat because I didn't want to quit. Not just for myself, but for all the up-and-coming female comics who were too intimidated to hang out at the store. But this was actually one of the most powerful lessons I've ever learned about how the good ego, that's the brave, just, hard-working, conscientious, driven part of ourselves, can actually be keeping us trapped in spiritual limitation and suffering just as much as the quote-unquote bad ego, that addicted, victim, blaming, destructive, psycho, Facebook stalker side of us. But I'll get to more on that later. Because 1 week after making the monumental decision to give up the fight for all womankind on the battleground of the world-famous Comedy Store, I had a knock-you-to-the-floor spiritual event that blasted open my chakras, flowed healing force through my hands, and connected me to the non-physical entities you just heard before, the Circle of Light. I came to understand that because the Comedy Store was so haunted, also more on that later, I could not open up to the ability that was waiting for me while I stubbornly stuck it out in my good fight, my righteous fight. I'm sure my advanced consciousness team were no doubt waiting in the wings going, come on, lady, it's just 30 minutes of stage time a week. In the face of helping transitioning humanity from a polarity-based, primitive mind-driven, single, linear time-space reality to a multidimensional, instantaneous manifestation, heart-centered, unlimited creative construct free of war, inequality, and suffering, getting a sitcom just isn't that big of a deal. It's time to leave the store. And as I say this, I know some of you listening to this will totally get it. You'll totally understand what I'm talking about. And some of you, probably many of you, will be like, this chick is obviously crazy. For starters, it sounds completely delusional that any beings would be talking to me or talking through me. But why on earth would a so-called collective of advanced and master consciousness energies enlist a starving, swearing, PTSD-riddled, hard-partying Australian stand-up comedian whose greatest accolade was a 15-minute closing bit on learning how to give blowjobs in America to help them in their work of evolving humanity's consciousness? Well, these questions and more are what I've had running through my mind for the last 15 years, ever since I was hit with 1,000,000 volts of cosmic consciousness wanting to have a chat with humanity about the future. My name is Georgia Jean. I'm a broad spectrum energist and a channel for the Circle of Light. And this is my lovely co-host, Melissa Rutigliano of the MarsLab.com.
Hello.
And this is Coming Out of the Cosmic Closet.
I'm coming out.
Woo! I want the world to know what a weirdo spiritual channeler cosmic spirits. Oh my God.
Yes, all those things and more.
All those things and more. We are here to kind of open up a great conversation about cosmic stuff, magic, non-physical energy, what's going on with the planet, why is it so crazy at this time, and what it's like to kind of deal with having a really weird ability in a world that doesn't believe in most of this stuff.
So Georgia has that ability. I do not. I have lots of questions.
Which is good. We always need the question askers.
Got a hungry mind.
Because that's how the answers come through for all of us to, get some wisdom up in this house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you said you're a broad spectrum energist.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
So what that kind of means is that it's a little bit like being a musician who can play a lot of instruments. I'm like a multi-instrumentalist of the cosmic world. Mm-hmm. So I have healing energy flows through me, through my hands. I also read tarot cards. I have a little bit of mediumship happens occasionally. Sometimes, like a bit of a dead person will just pop on in and want to have a bit of a
a
dirt person. Dead person.
Well, I took dirt person as a dead person, meaning 6 feet under.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I was like, did she just say dirt person?
Yeah, like a dirty dead person.
Yeah.
Dirty person in the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's where they ended up, they'll pop up. They'll be like, swing up in the coffin and be like, hey, what's up? It's Grandma. I want to talk to you about your love life. Grandma's love, helping with love lives.
Pause at any time if my grandma pops in.
Oh, yeah. Well, honestly, you never know because you know what happens? The dead people, they kind of like to take advantage a little bit when I'm a bit buzzed or something, like if I'm at a party. Because mediumship is kind of, there's more pressure with the mediumship about like, I love it when it happens organically, because usually that means an energy is coming through really strongly and they've really got an intention. But if somebody comes and wants specifically mediumship to reach somebody,
Sure.
there's a lot stronger sense of expectation, which actually is one of the things that can really block both me and the receiver. And I have to kind of work with people more, or work with the energy more, if I'm trying to make a specific connection, which you just can't guarantee. It's just like saying that I can guarantee that I can get Obama on the phone, like whether you can get someone on the phone or not, it's kind of the same, because it's kind of like a connection between me, the person. Like if you're best friends with Obama, be like, let's get Obama on the phone. He's going to be like, yeah, Melissa, of course I'll talk to you. But, Obama's like,
Right.
this jerk, I don't know her.
Yeah.
Like,
And a stranger standing before you, like, get my grandma on the line.
yeah, get my grandma on the line. Yeah. And so people they don't really understand how, these things work. Which is part of like the purpose of the show, is to help people like drop some of the crazy expectations so they can kind of actually have more of these experiences. Because the minute people have an expectation and then it doesn't live up to that, then they're like, oh, none of this stuff is real. Prove it to me. Get Obama on the phone right now.
Yeah. Oh, you can't?
You can't.
Yeah.
Then you are, yeah, right. So it's, then you start getting invalidated. It doesn't work. But what they do, I've noticed, the grandmas, or if someone wants to get through, if this is happened to me multiple times, if I'm like at a party or something, or at a bar, and I'll look across the room and I'll kind of catch someone's eye, or they'll catch my eye, but they're not really, it isn't like what's up, cutie kind of thing. It's just like they'll catch your eye.
Yeah.
And probably because I'm pretty secretive about what I do, they'll, kind of end up talking to them, and they'll ask me, what do you do? And in those instances, suddenly I'll say, well, I'm kind of psychic. And it's just like something that is happening that seems to open up this channel.
Yeah.
And then it'll just unfold. Like, I don't know. A lot of the times a connection will happen for me. Like I get when, while people read palms, like if I hold someone's hand, the connection will come in, and lo and behold, there's some like grandma going, just hang on like 3 more months and he's going to propose. Don't dump his ass. I'll have some like message to pass on. And it's actually super cute. I love it like that, because it's like no pressure, and they're just, they're kind of out there patrolling, looking for someone who's got the gateway and can kind of open
meanwhile,
up.
that person that was at the party is like, why do I keep looking at this woman?
Yeah. And it really does happen I just got to sidle over to this person. And when I used to work out at a place in New York, Quest Bookstore. Wonderful little spot, which was my regular place that I used to go and do readings, and often when someone would come in for a reading and they'd just be like, I don't know, I just had this feeling that I should pop in here. That would often be the time when I'm doing a tarot reading, and suddenly, Grandpa Trevor's come in to have a talk about the new car I'm buying. Like, it seems like, I hate to say that the sort of gender lines run on the other side, but it's the dads and the uncles are always about like the car and the renovations, and the mums and the grandmas are very often about, ooh, found this nice fella for you.
Yeah.
So it's super cute. So, but that is not what I say is like one of my strengths. That's like being, like, I'm okay at playing the recorder.
Yeah.
And sometimes when it's good, it's really, when the connection is strong, when the person already has a connection with their Obama on the other side, and I have a connection with that person, it's just like the radio dials in, and it can be like Fast and Furious, like bah, 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 bah. But it's not, like the other things that I do, more like the healing work and the channeling. If I'm going to channel, it's like the beings always come in. It's always happening. But even the connections will be different, like, what's coming forward for people in that. So that's a long way of answering, like, what is a broad spectrum energist? Just I would work on with all the little bits of energy, but the channeling is, I guess, what you would call my you know, my specialty, and also probably the weirdest thing I do.
So hence the coming out of the cosmic closet.
Hence coming out of the cosmic closet. I'm coming out, and I want the world to know that, you know, because, you know, we are going through this kind of shift in consciousness, and a lot of people are opening up to different kinds of cosmic skills, and they really don't know what's going on, and they don't know how to balance it with their former reality, which was very... you know, before I had my event, I was not really a particularly energy sensitive person. Yes, I meditated for a long time. Yes, and I did actually read tarot cards, but I didn't really get information I couldn't know. You know, I could look at the pictures and make a story and interpret, and I liked astrology. I liked all these things. I started reading palms when I was 15, but it was all coming much more from a mental and an interpretive place. But once I had this event and it kind of blew over my chakras, that's when I'd start with getting things like people's names, like the dead person's name. Be like, you know, Obama's on the phone, you know. Yeah. Obama's not dead, everyone. Okay, I just want to clear up any rumor that might happen. Yeah. Still alive. He's still alive. Paul McCartney, still alive. Apparently... maybe not, but anyway, whatever. We don't want to start a rumor here because that's the other thing about the cosmic world. It's very easy for people to get down the rabbit hole and really conspiracy-ish and stuff like that, which is probably another aspect that I want to talk about. You know, how do we seat this kind of energetic experience in our life in kind of a more practical way that really helps people, rather than being like a kind of an isolating or, you know, weird experience, where I think that's when things can start getting more distorted, when people aren't able to have like an open relationship with this ability and with the world that's around them. Yeah. So that's, you know, that's kind of part of it. But sure, it's doing something like channeling, saying, yeah, like I go into a trance and then beings from other galaxies. I mean, even just saying it out loud, galactic forces. And
someone lock her up.
Yeah, someone lock her up. Lock her up. It's completely nutty sounding, completely nuts sounding. Right. I mean, liking astrology, reading palms, quirky, a little bit cute, a little bit, she's a little, you know, unusual.
She's a fun new age.
She's a fun new age. But go into trance and beings talk through you about multidimensional reality and bending the matrix of time. Yeah. Little delusional.
So back it up. So you're doing stand-up comedy. Yeah. Living the dream, quote unquote. Yeah. And then what happens?
How did this happen?
Right.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Okay. Yeah, let's get into it. Backing it up, I was in the stand-up world and I'd really given up a lot to be in America. I mean, obviously, you know, my family is in Australia. I love Australia. I was really working really hard, what I thought was working hard. I mean, Hollywood's like super duper tough place, you know, facing a lot of rejection, like just a lot of not being seen, like see me, you know, toiling away. Having opportunities every now and then, but then, you know, things just not coming to pass. And a lot of highs and lows. Like it's just a roller coaster. And something that I learned, which I feel like if I knew then what I know now about how reality is created, this lady was doing it all wrong. But there came a point where I had to really do a lot of inner work and kind of different self-help things to handle how intensely difficult it was on my ego to be able to hang, to just keep going. It was a boys'
club at the time.
It was, I mean, the company's still, and I won't talk a huge amount about that in this podcast, but I'm going to talk a lot more about the events that were happening there and why, you know, just a whole bunch of stuff about, this sort of the force of comedy in the world as something that programs consciousness, and why I think it's relevant to talk about it, but not in this podcast.
Right.
Just wait for the next one.
But you had to go in.
I had to go in, and I was in there deep, so, and I was in, and like I said in the intro, I was kind of really like, I don't want these guys who are trying to push me out of the club to win. I want to be a good person. I want to be a strong person. And I was kind of doing all this work on myself to keep shoring myself up, keep going back there. But I mean, honestly, I was just really giving myself a really bad case of PTSD for being so stubborn about it, because after a while and after the sort of things that happened, I was like, for me to actually become a comic that like, for me to hang at the Comedy Store and keep doing comedy there, I was just having to get like nastier and dirtier and harsher and I mean, I don't think I was ever like a vile comic, but it, like, super edgy, which is fine. Like, I'm good with all that stuff. It's just funny, but it was just to follow someone like Andrew Dice Clay who does 40 minutes about, this bitch is so fucking disgusting, like, and you just so intensely like misogynistic and sexual and kind of like, this intense.
Yeah.
You can't be up there being like, doing some kind of Mary Poppins comedy. It's not going to, it's not going to go. And also, the goal really was to get on a sitcom. It wasn't the primary goal. I mean, the idea of getting on a sitcom is like, I'll make tons of money. I can buy my family houses. And then I'll always, my career will be assured in some way that I can to always be able to perform and always be able to like make people laugh and, do all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't just like, it isn't just like a total like fame seeking thing. And I actually don't think most people in Hollywood really, a lot, they're not all really interested in the fame. They just want to do this thing that they love, the performers and stuff, like anybody. They want to do this thing that they're really passionate about and really love. Yeah. So being at that particular club, and that was sort of part of the decision. It's like, I'm just like not going to be able to be a comic that like any network's going to go come near me with it, like a poll. And this was also a lot prior to Netflix, where they're doing a lot more edgy shows and stuff. Like, you really, it was all about being TV clean, which I couldn't barely do that because I'm a bit of a party mouth, but so anyway, so I'm doing all this stuff, working on myself. I had over the course of my life, like I said, I started meditating probably when I was like 18 or 19. So I meditated for a long time. When I lived in San Diego prior to moving to LA, I had some pretty epic experiences under hypnosis where I like automatically started going back into like past lives, and actually in one session got in between lives. And that was pretty wild. I'll probably talk about that another time. But I consider those some of my first quote-unquote spiritual experiences. Yeah. But mainly I was just like most people, pretty switched off, like intuitive, but not feeling all the everythings. Sure. And I think that's why even now in life, I'm either switched on or switched off. Just so you know, if anyone ever meets me, I'm not reading you. I'm not getting stuff. Unless a granny is really like sharpening her elbows and pushing everyone aside to get to me to tell you about the dude that's coming in. I'm not on all the time. And I think that's really important, because people always, you tell them and then they're always looking at you like, are you looking into my mind right now?
Yes, I feel that way even when I walk into like a new age store or once someone tells me what they do, I'm like, oh, they're reading me. God. Oh, yeah. What are they?
I know everything.
They know things that I don't even know.
I don't want to know.
So it's not like that.
For me, it's not like that. I think there are people who get, because they haven't got some kind of, which is something we'll talk about, some kind of levels of boundary between themselves and the other side. And even though you're kind of dissolving that at the same time to exist in the world, you need to also be able to hold that. That's never been, in just walking around day to day socially, no, I'm not. There's nothing going on. And I'm not that, how do I put it? Like, there are some people who are super psychic, like really can drop in that space and have a lot more direct, clear knowingness about everything. And that's, again, it's not my style. Like, I'm not a drummer. I'm a trombonist. You know, like the skills are different.
Yep.
Don't expect me to be a drummer when I'm a pan flutist, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just...
It's its own beast.
It's its own, I've got my own combination going on. So, yeah. What were we saying then? Yeah.
So in San Diego before you moved to LA.
Yeah.
And then you moved to LA.
And then I moved to LA and I was doing therapy and I was doing... and then I'd gotten into this goddess circle as well, which was actually one of the first places. There was, and I was reading a lot of stuff too. I was reading some channel material. There's this series of books by this being called Seth, and they're I should have been good and like gotten the exact name, The True Nature of Reality, and it's a lot about parallel lives and stuff like that. This woman in the 60s who had this ability and channeled this entity called Seth and got like profound amounts of like information. And then, so there was Seth, and then there's also another very famous channel called Esther Hicks. Well, she doesn't call herself a channel, but she's the one who brings through the Abraham teachings and a lot of that law of attraction. So at this time in the early 2000s, that's a lot when like The Secret was coming out, all this law of attraction stuff was really coming to the forward of like popular awareness, and Esther Hicks and Abraham were actually a lot of what was behind The Secret, but they actually got cut out of that movie for these reasons, that it was just like too kind of far out to have a woman, you know, to have on this kind of mainstream movie, you know, even though it's about cosmic stuff that these beings were speaking to her, but that's a lot where the information came from. So, and this learning about law of attraction and positive thinking, and of course I'm trying to like make it in Hollywood. So I'm, you know, being like, yeah, if I'm just really positive, like all this shit, you know, all this stuff's going to happen. And I actually went and saw Abraham-Hicks. I saw Esther Hicks, and of the hundreds of people, I got called up to be one of the people who could ask them questions. Yeah. And again, this is before I'm energy sensitive. Sure. I'm just, you know, just being a hustler. And so it's just, and it's actually out there because they send out monthly recordings, like a subscription, and I made it on her like monthly recording.
Did you have to pre-write your question in and then someone approved it?
No. And she obviously was feeling the energy, you know, of people. And I think I actually think this was a significant energetic transfer for me. And I'm going to talk more about this, about how these kind of abilities and how this kind of consciousness shifting stuff is happening, that you have these kind of direct transfers with people. So I got called up from the audience, and I remember being very emotional. Like I went up, and my face, you know, when you get like tears coming up your face and getting all twisted, and you're like, you're trying not to cry. Yeah. But it's just, there was something, keep it together. It was just something very emotional. Yes. And then moving, and something was obviously moving, like my consciousness. So and then, you know, my questions are like, I'm a comedian and I'm so poor. Like at night I have to drink water because I'm so hungry, because I'm like, oh my God. It was true. I was just starving.
Water for dinner again.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's so sad. Just like, oh my God. Yeah. So and I would be like, I didn't like, because I was catering. I guess like on the nights that I wouldn't cater, it'd just be like, it's just me and the glass of water. So it's all this kind of pretty pathetic stuff. But I did ask her about, you know, in comedy we talk a lot about pretty dark subjects as well, and how does that work with, you know, law of attraction and trying to be a positive person. And they had some stuff about that, actually what you're doing. And I do believe that this is what all art forms do, and I'm a big believer in the arts, is they kind of have a transmuting quality, that they take the kind of the coal of humanity's consciousness and they put it through this artistic process, and they bring light to it, and they raise the vibration. So, you know, having people laugh at my tragic love life and
water
stuff.
for dinner.
My water for dinner.
That's true. Comedy definitely transforms.
It definitely does. Yeah. And again, like I'm going to talk more about it because it's such an interesting world.
Yeah.
And just many things about as consciousness is what works for everybody, because part of the reason of doing this show is that we are going through this big shift in consciousness, but not everybody's coming to a healer. Like not everybody's doing the path that I did, which was to kind of work on myself and do healing work and that kind of stuff. So consciousness has to shift in these bigger formats. And I think musicians are doing it. I think artists are doing it. I think entertainment is doing it. I personally work with a lot of people who are influencers on other people. Like I want to say kind of like the circle is a little bit like, the man behind the curtain or the beings behind the curtain, that a lot of people who come to work with the circle via myself are reaching people in different fields. Like, law, education, music.
Yeah.
My clients come from across the spectrum and they kind of vibe in with the circle, and then they just carry this kind of consciousness that comes with the circle into their worlds. And I think that's where change is really going to happen on a global level. I have people working like technology, all kinds of things. This planet is going to move forward with, like, it's a collective operation. It isn't just like, just a couple of healers going, I'm going to raise the level of the planet.
Right.
It's just, that's not how it's happening. And that's another thing I kind of want to talk about is like, because a lot of people get excited about gifts and quote unquote, I know we want to change that paradigm about gifts, but they get excited about having abilities and like, it's so cool, and it is cool. But it doesn't mean that you then have to go and become a healer or open up a retreat center. Like a lot of, like almost everybody who gets into personal growth is sort of like, and I think I want to open up a retreat center and help other people. And it's like, the world is the retreat center. You going to teaching preschoolers, you're going to reach a lot more people than the people who can afford to go to retreats. Like some of the stuff is like a luxury. And so if we're going to talk about a shift that helps the planet, it's got to come through much broader spectrums. And that's why, in my work with Circle Evolution, I do kind of spiritual events and conference calls and teleseminars, and I do all that sort of thing. But it's a limited group of people who are coming for that. And that group is, ultimately it's not going to be big enough to really shift out this human consciousness into where we're going, basically.
So how far, you're doing therapy, going to all these healing type conferences, learning new healing modalities, right? So then how long is that process until you realize you're...
Hey guys, we're going to wrap it up right now. But if you want to hear more about what happened in my Knock You to the Floor cosmic event where I first made connection with the Circle of Light, make sure you subscribe and look out for episode 2, which is part B of this crazy story.
Chandeliers were shaking, roofs were rocking. So you definitely want to listen to episode 2. Part B.
And if you want to check out some raw Circle of Light recordings and start catching some of the mind-melting crazy wisdom of these beings of consciousness that speak through me.
No big deal.
Just trot on over to circleevolution.com. Check out my free recordings page and start to melt your mind.
Ooh, if you want to learn more about what I do, just head over to themarslab.com.
Make sure you rate and subscribe and review, please.
Yes, please. Makes a difference. Thank you.